Hi, I'm Ashley with Campbell. Thanks for investing your time to help your community be a great place to live. Before you watch the video, make sure to click the subscribe button so that we can help you make educated decisions as a board member.
And hello, everybody. Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to extend a heartfelt welcome to all of you. And I would like to touch base on the recent hurricane that passed through Florida last week of Hurricane Idalia. So if any of you or any of your family members, I hope everybody is all safe out there. And then if you have any questions after this presentation, you'll have my contact information. If you experience anything regarding Hurricane Idalia, as far as any property damage, and we're willing to help you, guide you, whatever we need, just give me a shout and we're happy to go for it. I'm going to try to keep this class as entertaining as possible. I know nobody likes talking about insurance, but it's the big elephant in the room, especially as we're in budget season for those community managers out there. And we know how insurance is as far as in relation to your budget. I used to joke around and say it's a third of your budget, but now it's probably more 40% of your budget. And it's just an ongoing challenge. But let's get to our presentation. This is a presentation that's going to go all about handling property claims. So whether it's not just storm related, we're going to touch on that a little bit, but we're also going to touch on typical claims, fires, floods, a lot of those pipe bursts that go into all the different buildings. And the big question of the year is, should you not file a claim? How's this going to affect my loss history or my renewal? So I'm happy to address questions on that. And most of this is going to affect condo associations, but also even if you're in a homeowner association, we experience fires in homeowner associations all the time for single family homes and so forth, or clubhouse issues. So again, feel free to ask as many questions as you like. This is the overview of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to go to a little bit about Altieri Insurance Consultants and the insurance cycle of how it works when you file claims. I'm going to touch on condo insurance requirement. Those of you that are seasoned veterans out there, this is just going to be a little refresher for you. We'll breeze through that pretty quickly in the interest of time. And then do's and don'ts. There are things that you may or may not know in regards to filing a claim, what you should, what you shouldn't do. All the more reason having proper representation like a public adjuster is so important these days. And then we're going to talk about, the storm prep and after the storm, and then take some questions out there. All right, so first a little about Altieri Insurance. We are a second generation family owned company. We're headquartered in Tampa, Florida. I run the office here in Fort Lauderdale. We have other offices throughout all over Florida, via Ocala, we have in other states. We have sister companies in New Jersey. We have office in Tennessee and Nashville. We are a national company licensed in 20 plus states, actually almost 30 plus states now. We have officers and board members of NAPIA and FAPIA, which are the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters and the Florida Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. So other than being a representative for you, we're involved every year with legislation, fighting the big bad insurance lobbyists out there on better insurance reform. Obviously, and also CAI. Myself, I've been a board member for CAI, Community Association Institute, for over 13 years. So I go up to Tallahassee every year to do the same. In fact, we're doing that this November. 30 plus licensed adjusters. We've settled hundreds of millions in claims. We've already collected over 220 million for Hurricane Ian claims of the clients that we signed over in Fort Myers and Sanibel Island. We have a great pre-loss program that I'd love to talk about if you have some time, which basically is, a zero cost, zero obligation program that we're signing associations up just to have another expert set of eyes other than your insurance agent. And just advise you accordingly, review your policies and so forth. For myself, I just mentioned earlier, I spent 20 years in the property management realm. I have all my CAI accreditations, as you can see. I'm a licensed public adjuster. I worked with insurance litigation law firms, so I've done a lot. I love teaching. I love taking all this experience that I've gathered over my career and sharing it with others, which is one of the reasons why I'm here with you today. All right, overview. We're talking about specifically when we're talking insurance, we're talking about your property policy. That's the biggest nut on all your insurance policies. That is the biggest, most expensive policy you have, and we're talking about filing property claims. And insurance, and we're talking about insuring the property from a loss perspective and then how it's recovered. And you're going to hear me say this a long time, the recovery process is indicative of your team of experts you have already engaged. And I say that because this is why I do what I do. I love property management. I love helping associations out, and the value of what a public adjuster does, whether it's my company or another one, is so important. And you're going to see why. 100% of the people are familiar with insuring the property. You have to insure the property from a loss. Less than 5% will ever become familiar with the recovery process and getting your economic value for a loss. We're going to talk about bill trading, and that's not economic value. And that's, again, why it's so important to have proper representation. Why do we buy insurance? Well, we want to transfer that risk, and we require to have insurance by the law. Who do we buy insurance from? And then how do we know if we have enough insurance? And we're going to address some comments there because I'm getting a lot of questions on the appraisals, the increase of construction materials as it's gone up an average of 36% over the last year and a half. So is your appraisal still accurate? You know, it depends when you got it, and hopefully you have to update your appraisal soon and you hit that 36-month requirement. And then the $1 million question, when do you use your insurance? You know, do I file a claim? Is it worth it for me to file a claim? And that's why you have experts. You know, obviously you have your insurance agent who's going to guide you the best he or she can. And then you have other experts like public adjusters. And, you know, that's one of the process of becoming an Altieri Advantage client is, you know, call us 24/7 if you have any questions, guiding you through the process of whether you should or should not file certain claims. The uniqueness of condos and homeowners association. They have that uniqueness of insuring for both parts, for both the association and the unit owners. You know, a lot of people don't understand, or they're misled to represent what exactly is insured and what is not insured. And I'll get into examples of that. I know the Florida statute has their definition, but, you know, as we all learn, those of you that have been around, it's all about interpretation. Let's talk about condominiums first. You know, we know that condos are governed by state of Florida, Chapter 718. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because, again, this is nothing new information. I'll take questions as I see them pop up. We're just getting started, so if you're late, it's okay. When is a condo is purchased in Florida? You own an individual. Everybody knows that, and then we share the undivided interest known as common elements. There are limited common elements such as balconies and parking spaces. That's a shared usage for a specific unit in that building, and in which the maintenance is also shared. You are required by the rules and regulations established by the condo. Again, easy stuff, guys. You should know this. Statutorily required to provide certain insurance coverages, and the statute is very specific on that. I will say Florida is the most detailed Florida statute when it comes to condominiums anywhere in the country. Other states are trying to copy what we have section by section in regards to certain paragraphs, but I mean, if you have not memorized, you know, 718 by now, don't worry, it's coming. Remaining items are the responsibility of the unit owner. We'll get into that. And then the policies typically review how to make the insurance claim. The two policies, we're going to talk about that. And that's a property policy and how it's divided up and how you should use each portion of that. Obviously, your condo deck bylaws, these are your condo docs. They may require more coverage than the Condominium Act requires. So these are things to review. Older properties, you see more specific stuff. Newer properties pretty much mirror the Florida statutes. But again, have an expert review them to make sure you're properly recovered. You know, I love insurance agents. There's so many of them out there, but the problem is there's so many of them out there. You know, a lot of these insurance agents are salespeople. There are a lot of great insurance agents that are seasoned veterans. So it helps you to get a second opinion. Whether it's another agent that you have a relationship with, or again, a public adjuster, you know, just get an opinion that you're properly covered and have the proper limitations set in your policy for what's required in your communities. Statement of values determines the coverage amount. So we'll go into that a little bit. This is your snapshot of the Florida statute. This is the key word in this section is insurable event. There's a portion of the condominium property that's insured from an insurable event. And so let's take hurricanes, for example. You have an insurable event. So if a window blows out and people say, oh, windows are unit owner responsibility, that's a misnomer. Windows are typically the unit owner's responsibility to maintain, repair hardware, but it is one of three elements that protect the structure of a property, going with concrete and roof. The windows are covered by your insurance policy from an insurable event, such as a hurricane and or a fire or anything of that nature. And a lot of people, a lot of boards don't understand that. A lot of unit owners don't understand. A lot of managers don't understand that because until you're faced with that situation, it's ever evolving learning process, and this is why you're here today. Florida Statute 718-111. So this is the minimum requirements, what Florida says, the law says on what your responsibility is to cover. In a nutshell, you have to cover all common areas. All portions as originally installed and replacement like in kind quality in accordance with the original plans and specs. And again, this is open to interpretation. Look at the exclusions. We all have heard, anything inside the unit's unit owner responsibility, anything drywall in is a condo association's responsibility. Again, open to interpretation. We recently had a massive flood in a property where we were able to get all the bedroom interior doors covered under the policy because they were all affected. And they had 6 inches of water in all about 40 units. And they didn't think the doors would be covered, but we were able to argue and prove that they should be because it's part of the originally installed the doors were originally installed when the building was built. And having 6 inches of water, the frames were all rotted and so forth, which was the whole doors. Point is, interpretation is key. And again, having the right professional, that was a $35,000 difference in that claim where we were able to get all the interior doors covered as part of the insurance claim in the loss. So again, having the right professional is so key in these type of losses. I touched on insurance appraisal. If you don't know, every 36 months, you have to update it. Again, your construction values have increased so much these last couple of years. You may not be appraising enough, or you not be insured enough to what your total insurable value is, which is the dollar amount these insurance companies base your premiums on. So if it says your building's worth $80 million, then you pay a premium based on $80 million. Your total insurance value may be $86 or $90 million now. So when you get that updated appraisal, expect an increase. If you haven't done so in 2 years, expect an increase. So your value is going to go up because of the cost of construction material, because these appraisals are based on construction value, not real estate value. This is something that many residents and board members don't understand. They think it's real estate value. So they say, oh, the market's going down, our value must go down. No, this is based on construction material. And again, noticing the astronomical increases on construction material lately, it's affecting these appraisals drastically on what your total insurable value of your property is. So have that, be prepared that your TIV most likely will go up at your next update that you do. If you can wait another year, that's a risk that a business decision that you and the board will make, but just understand you may not be insuring full value for your property. Now, is there going to be a full catastrophic loss? Odds are there isn't, but you need to be aware of that. Okay, disaster preparedness. I'm not going to bore you with all the stuff that you've been trained over the years. You know what to prepare for your disaster. Hopefully you all have your disaster plans. As an Altieri Advantage client, that's one of the things we help you is review your disaster playbook and help you and make some recommendations. But do you have a program in place that helps unit owners understand their insurance and what they have? I'll give you a quick story. We got a call from a unit owner in Aventura who had 5 inches of water throughout a 5,000 square foot condo. He bought a policy. His HO6 policy was $12,000. He had $500,000 in coverage, so he thought he had $500,000. Hey, I can get my new floors can be replaced. Basically, I have plenty of money. I have a $500,000 limit. There's a sub limit in there for water damage of only $10,000. So when it comes to water damage, you only have a $10,000 limit. Minus your $2,500 deductible, you only can get $7,500. You paid almost twice that much for the policy. You didn't understand your policy. So again, having these seminars. We do seminars as an Altieri Advantage client to help unit owners understand their policy and what they have and what they don't have. And you're seeing a lot of those water sublimits issued, especially in today's Florida market. Let's see some questions here real quick. Is each unit owner responsible for the windows of his or her unit? Can the owner make a decision to install windows that are not the same as the rest of the unit? That is a question that I will say, typically each owner is responsible for his or her own unit, but again, consult your condo attorney because it's all document specific. As far as that are not the same as the rest of the unit, they may be under the material alteration clause. Again, consult the condo attorney. Some of those windows, the way they look, I've seen people put impact windows in and then just install mullions to make the appearance look like the older version, to not come across as a material alteration. Can you use an appraisal for condo master insurance to apply for an apartment building coverage? You should get an insurance appraisal done. For condo master insurance, apply for, no, you have to get a specific appraisal done for that specific property. So if you have a condo master insurance, unless it's in that appraisal, so I'm not 100% understanding, Tammy, your question, but if you have that apartment rental, that apartment building within the condo master, then it should be acknowledged in that insurance appraisal. Otherwise, you should get a separate appraisal done for that building. How often should an appraisal for insurance purposes be done? I didn't catch what you said. By law, you're required to do them every 36 months. It's in the Florida statute. So if you're in that 36-month period, your insurance agent should be telling you that because he cannot get a new proposal on your renewal without an updated appraisal if you're past that 36 months. But it does say 36 months. All right, we're going to talk about the bottom half of that cycle, the do's and don'ts. We're going to talk about what happens in a loss. And we're talking all different types of losses as well. It's not just, hurricanes, although we're going to start with the do's and hurricanes. And this is just a little history in 2005. I mean, as we all know that we were down here when Wilma and Katrina impacted, the mentality of these insurance companies shifted. Rather than paying suitable amounts for claims, they look for reasons to deny claims. Did not meet the high windstorm deductibles, or it was pre-existing or wear and tear. And how do you protect yourself from that? Get a pre-condition building report. If you don't have a benchmark of your current property now on not just the windows, the roof, hopefully you're doing annual roof inspections and the structure of the building. And now with the milestone inspections, if you're not required to have one yet, but you should have some sort of engineering report that sets a current benchmark. That way, if a storm comes through here and the insurance company says, well, that was pre-existing condition, prove me wrong. You have a report that says, no, this was not here before the storm. I have this engineer report. I always recommend engineers. You get fenestration professionals or fenestration experts. Those are people that are experts within the windows and sliding glass doors, or that's called the fenestration system. General contract, any type of work having to do with the structure of your property, any type of report. I tell people keep them forever. I know some people keep records for 7 years. Show the history that you've been properly maintaining the building, or the building's been properly maintained year over year, because these insurance companies are looking for every single nook and cranny detail to deny and or pay a less suitable amount for these insurance claims. Obviously, before the storm, maintain all your policies. We know all that. You should know your evacuation plans by now. Any potential building envelope hazards. This is storm prep, ABC, anything that's loose debris, anything on your roof, that type. I always cringe when I go on a roof that's an old gravel top roof. That's not even a proof system now, because that just, all those gravel pellets will fly to your next building. Capture pre-loss pictures and videos. Everybody says, you've heard the term, a picture says 1,000 words. Well, a video sends 1,000,000 words. You want to get videos. I had a unit owner send me a video from Hurricane Irma of water just coming in through the window, and that was phenomenal. So whenever we are threatened with an impact of something like that and residents don't want to evacuate, just tell them to document, and pictures and videos are awesome. Emergency contact information is in place. Recovery plan. Have your team of experts ready. And this is the last one. This is your team of experts. Again, the elephant in the room is have a public adjuster ready. Managers, as I know, and spent 20 years in managers, you're asked to wear multiple hats. You're multitasking experts out there. Take some of that burden off your shoulder. A public adjuster is an expert, insurance expert. So we come out and we'll show you how we can lift that burden off your shoulders. During the storm, obviously take all your safety measures, follow mandatory evacuations. I can't stress that enough after seeing what we saw over in Sanibel Island. It was tragic, and I have not seen devastation like that since Hurricane Andrew. And I'm a native born and raised in Miami and been through Hurricane Andrew and every other hurricane that's gone through here. Emergency organizations is necessary. Communicate. If you don't have management data software like a Building Link or one of those type softwares, I mean, it's so easy to communicate from your home or from another location that has power, and keep your residents that did evacuate to understand, hey, here's what's happening. You know, is it safe to come back? That type of thing. We all know communication is key. Boards love it. Residents love it. You have to communicate. It's part of the job. Just have a great management data software. If you don't already have it, you know, you can do blast text messaging or robocalls, that type of thing. After the storm, this is so key. And this is where we can come in and help lift that burden. I just talked about communication. Identify potential life safety issues. You don't know if you see damage, a roof may collapse at any time, or a soffit may collapse, or a balcony, depending on the damage that's sustained. I had during Hurricane Irma, I had a boardwalk around in North Bay Village just get completely decimated, and there were 6 sinkholes around the seawall. Seawall completely failed. You know, so I immediately hired a fence company to come out there and just quarantine that area off. I didn't know, wasn't safe. And obviously your first priority is to restore building functions. You need to set up a command center where you can operate and communicate, whether that be your home, I've done it before where I had to move my management office. I had no power across the street to a separate building, which was the fitness gym. So I moved all the gym equipment to the side, set up my command center in the fitness gym because that had power and I can communicate from there. Obviously, we used to call in mitigation companies, roofers, preserve as much evidence as possible. And this goes for every claim, not just hurricanes or storm. If you have a pipe burst or pipe break, keep that piece of pipe until your public adjuster and insurance company says we no longer need it. They most likely will take it to try to subrogate against the manufacturer. That's not your business as long as they take care of you and pay that suitable claim for you. But preserve all evidence of damages. Whatever the cause of loss was. So if there was a fire and we had a client that the dishwasher caught fire, well, don't throw away that dishwasher. Preserve that evidence because the insurance company is going to contact that manufacturer and they want to do whatever they want to try to figure out what caused that fire. But, you know, that was a $500,000 claim because that kitchen lit on fire, the sprinklers went off, and that tells you the story. Post-loss checklist provided. We have a great post-loss checklist with Altieri. We send it out to as much people as we can. Obviously, if you're in our Altieri Advantage pre-loss program, we review these things and we do all this stuff and guide you through this whole process. One of your biggest emotional challenge with this loss is having that team of experts you've already developed a relationship with. And we're going out all over Florida to develop the relationship now. Again, you don't want to wait till the last minute. I used to joke around and say, oh, you don't want to fiddle through the phone book. Well, kids nowadays don't know what a phone book is. So I'm like, you don't want to surf the internet and try to find experts and make your expert list after the event. You want to have that team of experts you've worked with, you've trusted, that you develop that relationship with, that can come in right after the storm and lift the burden of the claims process off your shoulders. The do's, obviously, we talked about life safety and mitigation. Get your right professional. So when you call your public adjuster, your water restoration contractor, your roofer, your general contractor, if shore and post shores have to be put up, temporary roof repairs have to be made, that's the priority. You want to create a safe environment so investigations and livable conditions can resume as quick as possible. After the storm, again, I told you I was going to beat this to a dead horse. Have your team of experts ready. And these are just a few people. Elevator companies are huge. Regards to elevator companies, I mean, this is the type of thing where have extra pieces of equipment at the property. Don't wait, especially nowadays. There are computer boards out there that'll take 8 weeks to get, or they have to refurbish some parts, door opener equipment. Contact your elevator company and say, hey, we're in Florida. This is where storms happen. Can you keep some inventory on site so I don't have to wait? You know, depending on the maintenance program you have with the elevator company, have that conversation. Same thing with AC equipment. Those are bigger towers that have cooling towers and chiller systems on your roof, or even if you have exhaust fans or anything of that nature, some extra belts, motors, that type of stuff, keep some extra stuff if you have the room for inventory. Is flood policy required when you own a unit that is on a higher floor, 10th, 11th? No, it is not required. It's a good idea to have a flood policy if you're in the first 3 floors. For me, after seeing those 15, 20 feet storm surges from Hurricane Ian and the storm surges we just witnessed last week, yeah, if you have a first floor unit or second floor unit, even a third floor, you may want to purchase a flood policy, but it is not required. Citizens try to make it required. A couple months ago, they quickly rescinded that. Flood policy to cover against rising water, or does it cover a leak from another unit that may cause damage? A flood policy does not cover leak from another unit that may cause damage. That's your property policy. Flood policies do cover a certain amount of rising water, whether from storm or flooding. You have separate provisions in your property policies for sanitary backup. So if it's a sanitary backup issue, you have a limit in that policy, you have an endorsement in there, and this is where the policy review comes such into play. You know, we do this policy review at no charge, no obligations, part of our Altieri Advantage program, and we'll tell you, you should increase your limits for sanitary backup. If you only have a $5,000 limit and it backs up in your lobby, guess what? It's going to be more than $5,000. All right, so let's talk about some Florida statutes you're not familiar with. We're getting out of the 718s and the 720s. I'm going to 627, and this is a recently changed new law as of July 1st. In regards to windstorm claims, you only have 1 year from the day the storm makes landfall to file a windstorm claim. Why is that terrible? Well, 5 years ago, you had 3 years to file a windstorm claim. Why did you have such a long period? Because you may not notice you had damage until a year later. Your roof may not be leaking until a year and a half or so later. It happened to me in my private home. My roof started leaking a year and a half after Hurricane Irma. I was like, well, this ain't good. I called the roofer out. He said, all your tiles are loose from Irma. And I'm like, okay, well, I filed a hurricane claim because I was able to, because I was within that 3-year limit. A couple of years later, they reduced it down to 2 years. And now they reduced it down to 1 year. Not only did they do that, if you find supplemental damage, you only have another 6 months to file that claim. So the government is trying to say, we're doing this so we can light a fire under the insurance companies to process these claims quicker. I can tell you, in a disaster situation of a hurricane, it's not going to go any quicker. They overload these third-party insurance adjusters, and they give them 1,000 claim files, and they welcome our help as public adjusters because we do the work for them. It's not going to get any quicker. They want people not to have the opportunity, and there are some challenges in the past and why they're doing this. But they want to cut the time frame short and your statute of limitations short. So the lesson here is you have 1 year to file a windstorm claim. So get your property fully inspected. If a windstorm should happen and pass through, do not wait. Get your roof inspected, get your windows inspected, your structure as a whole, garages, your amenities, get everything fully inspected. And if there's evidence of windstorm damage, again, it may not be to the naked eye, the untrained eye, but there are window damages like those gaskets that get ingested, those windstorm damages. I've seen frame damages and frame movement. During a windstorm, you have a big positive and negative pressure on your windows and sliding glass doors where the fasteners may have been loosened. Have a professional look at that stuff after a storm. You ever have windows that all of a sudden you hear the wind blowing, whistling through the window that's not closing properly? Well, that's not age and wear and tear. That's from a windstorm event. The frame may have moved or cracked, and now wind is getting in, especially if you're in a higher floor and you hear that whistling sound of wind coming in. Have an expert look at the property. Now you only have 1 year. Do it as soon as after the event. And a side note on that, if you have to sue the insurance company, you have 5 years to sue the insurance company. So if you cannot come to a settlement, you have a 5-year statute of limitations on that. But again, if you have a public adjuster involved, more than likely you'll come to a settlement that's suitable amount for your repairs. This is an analogy we use. Would you let the IRS do your taxes? Of course not. So you're not a public adjuster, and this is the advantage of hiring public adjusters. This is a third-party report that was done and called the OPAGA report, saying that if you have a public adjuster in your loss, your claim on average is increased 747% from the initial offer by the insurance company. Folks, they'll look in reasons to deny claims or paying low ball amounts. 740%. That, I thought that was a crazy number. And then I'm seeing what we're doing at the Altieri side, and it's so much higher than that. And you'll see, I mean, there's different type of adjusters. And so it's important to know the difference. You know, claims adjusters that work solely for the insurance companies, those are insurance adjusters that have come out when you file a claim and don't think they're in your best interest or the association's best interest because they're your insurance company. They're looking after the insurance company's best interest. That's why it's so important to have a public adjuster looking after your best interests. And that is what we do. We hire you to represent you, the policy holder. And then we take, again, that burden off the manager's shoulders on processing the claim, doing our construction estimate, negotiating everything, the inspections, soup to nuts, so the manager does not have to deal with it. And we update, again, coming from the management background, I know the importance of updating the boards and on a regular basis for your management reports and your board meetings. So I make sure that we update on a weekly basis or as necessary on how the claim is going so you can give the latest and greatest news to your board. I just delivered a $900,000 check to a client and they're tickled pink. And these are the type of meetings that I love, and this is why I do what I do now. Here's some landmines to avoid. Obviously, we talked about high deductibles. There's no getting around them, especially for the windstorm deductibles. There are policies that are deductible buyback policies. You can buy a policy and cut that deductible down. Now, whether it's economically feasible to buy a deductible buyback policy, but it's a conversation to be had with the insurance agent. Say, hey, what is ongoing costs? You know, I'm hearing it's dollar for dollar now. So if you have $100,000 policy that you paid in premium, it's $100,000 for deductible buyback. Well, if you suffer a couple $1 million loss and your deductible is 2.8 million, well, that $100,000 looks great. But again, it's risk versus reward, and you know, it's a business decision that has to be made. But it's worth asking the question. You know, duties in the event of a loss. Obviously, you have to determine what conditions are insured and how the policy is designed for your specific community. You have to meet those obligations. There are laws about timely notifications to the loss of the carrier, what your responsibilities are as a board, as management, or as management to advise the board on preventing further damages, and then cooperating with the insurance investigation. This is all handled by a public adjuster once engaged. But avoid those landmines. Again, managers wear many hats, but do you know how long an insurance company has to, in order to notify you once you file a claim? There's limits. There's 30-day limits. There's this limit. There's that limit. And again, having representation, we cross I's and dot those T's and notate we emailed the insurance company, we called the insurance company, no return back. They failed to return by their 30-day obligation. This builds up a great case if you have to go to litigation. In most cases, this builds up a great case to get the claim paid so they can avoid litigation. Let me take a quick peek at the question and answers. Fire protection system, accidental water loss discharge, master policy or individual HO6 policy, condo association. The fire protection system, if it discharges, the condo association policy is usually notified and do what you're responsible to mitigate, which is typically the common areas. Every unit owner should file a claim with their own HO6 policies for damages inside the units. But as I said earlier, interpreting what the responsibility is, it's public adjuster's job. You know, let us go in there and interpret. But yes, fire sprinklers are a very common cause of loss on the flooding. So if you have one that discharges, whether it just breaks on its own or somebody hits it, that happens all the time. But that's a claim to be filed with the association's insurance company. How often should video pictures of condo be taken in support of case of a casualty loss, i.e. before and after support? I like to take videos before potential storm threat. I like to document every capital improvement that you do and as you do it. So if you put in your roof, make sure that's documented. Obviously, that'll be updated in the next insurance appraisal or reserve study. That'll be documented there as well. Does all policies have sanitary backup included? It should, because it happens. Again, we do a free policy review as an Altieri Advantage client. We're happy to take a look at that for you, China. Damage to unit caused by watering entering a unit by the windows from storm surge. Would this be covered by flood or the property policy? This will be covered by the property. So a key point in identifying who's responsible for what. Flood is only responsible from the first level. So if you have windstorm damages that damage your windows to where that structural integrity is starting to fail and there's water coming in from them, that's your property policy covers that. If it's just from a regular storm or if it's from a hurricane, two different things. Why? Because it's two different deductibles. You should have an endorsement in your policy called wind-driven rain. Again, during the property review, we found policies that don't have wind-driven rain coverage. Why not? We live in Florida. Rain likes to go upside down, sometimes. So you should have that. What is a public adjuster and how different? I'm not showing how different, but I'll tell you what a public adjuster is in a few minutes. And I'll tell you how we're compensated. What are you recommending to reduce the risks to ensure coverages from damage from electric vehicles and charging stations? That's a great question, and that's the hottest topic in the world. Keep those electric vehicles outside the garage. Now, these batteries, the funny thing is, and I would consult your fire chief when it comes to electric vehicles, because one of the ironies things I saw in Fort Myers Beach after Hurricane Ian was the fire department was telling everybody put the electric vehicles outside of the garage, bring them out because they would catch fire. And you can't extinguish them because they would reignite again. So the fire department would say, as long as they're outside, just let them burn out. Just make sure you're not overloading your capacity. You have an electrician come in when they put the charging stations in and that your building can handle that capacity. Make sure if it does, you have that in writing by a certified electrician saying it can handle the capacity of X amount of charging stations. Because if a fire should break out from that, then at least you've covered yourself from a certified electrician. Be aware of storm chasers. There are fly-by-night door knockers. Like every industry, there are bad public adjusters, just like there are bad lawyers, bad property managers, bad accountants, bad attorneys. I've seen public adjusters signing condos up in downtown Miami for Hurricane Ian claims. Ian did not hit downtown Miami, but they said, "Oh, we get you on your roof." They're door knockers. They fly by night. Be aware of that. Runaway mitigation bills, tear out document. So these are the storm chasers you have to avoid. And bill trading is one of these things that we'll talk about in a few minutes, but insurance companies love to do that. And then basically it's like, give me your bill and I'll cut you a check for that. When they know the amount should be a lot more than what the bill says. Because like I said, you may have residual damages 6 months later. So be aware of the bill trading. After the storms, don't panic. If you have your team of experts, let us go in there, do what we got to do. Like I said, we cross T's and dot I's for you. We even have relationships with contractors and roofers. If you don't have one, we're happy to recommend, say, hey, you can call these people. They have boots on the ground, trailers and equipment, emergency generators, that type of stuff. Don't engage with anybody that has not been properly contracted. Guys, vet your vendors, even your public adjusters. I send people like obviously we check BBB ratings, but check out the Google reviews, check out testimonials, go to YouTube and see if there's anything on there. We have a YouTube channel, so go check that out, but vet your contractors as you would, especially, in a disaster situation. All the contractors from all over the country love to come down to Florida. Hey, you need us. And no, that's why it's so important to have your team of experts ready before the loss. Don't provide too much information when you're talking to an insurance company. They will use that against you. Words matter. If there's something I can leave you with today, is that words matter, and that can be detrimental to your claim. Again, so important on why you should have a public adjuster engaged after a loss to handle that information and not even put that burden on your shoulder. Don't start remediation without a plan being laid out by us. Like I said, for us, and if you're one of our pre-loss clients, we're going to tell you, yes, call your mediation company, have a backup mediation company, because of something we learned from Hurricane Irma. a week prior to Irma, Hurricane Harvey hit Texas, and everybody sent all their equipment over there. Well, then a week later, Irma hits, and they couldn't get their equipment back. So have backup remediation companies, water restoration companies is what I mean by that. General contractors, just like plumbers, have redundancy is key. Have 2 or 3 good companies you trust, you worked with. Again, if you need recommendations, we work with tons of them that do great work. All right, let's just take a look at questions real quick as we go after storms. What are you recommending to reduce the risk to ensure coverage for damages? Oh, from electric vehicles. Okay, we talked about that. But does the flood coverage cover garage doors and interior doors on the lobby level? It should. Again, without seeing how the property is designed, but it covers everything on the first level. Prevention methods for that stuff is install floodgates. All the new buildings down here, they install floodgates on every entrance on the lobby level to keep that water out. And so you don't have to go last minute filling sandbags. That may be a capital improvement you may want to do that's preventative, especially here in Florida. Condo HO6 policies should have coverage for the master policy deductible if damages are exclusive to individual unit. HO6 policies have coverage, I think it used to be 2,000 and maybe 3,000 on special assessments that are passed as a result of a hurricane or any storm damages. But again, these are conversations and understanding your policy that I mentioned earlier, conversations you have with your agent and what your HO6 policy includes. A property manager recommended an insurance broker who paid a large percentage of the premium to an affiliate of the property manager. What is your position? My position would be call your attorney. Will the association say anything in the absence of this sharing agreement? What you're describing to me, my first reaction is just have this discussion with your condo attorney or an outside attorney. Be very cautious. Just talk to your attorney, because that does not sound, I've never heard of that situation and how you wrote that, Charles. Stephen asks, will you discuss how co-insurance costs can affect your settlement for appraisals not up to date? Again, you're talking if you have a total loss, you may have 80% co-insurance, where only 80% of your property is covered according to your appraisal. Odds of you having a total loss, and we all know what happened in Surfside. That's the perfect storm effect. I don't want to get into it, but that's just, there's so many different variables that happen there. But you should have those appraisals updated in accordance to the Florida statute. And yeah, I'm always a fan of 100% insurance. All right, after the storm, if you have a pre-plan, assemble your claim recovery program. Obviously, before, your goal is to resume operations and occupancy as quick as possible. Being in the know, we talked about communication, managing your insurance proceeds. As a public adjuster firm, it's our job to get the suitable value of your claim in your hands. It's your job to make the business decision on how you're going to spend that money to get the repairs done. Again, have your team of experts ready. Landscape, I know a lot of associations contract with landscaping companies for extra labor because they have a lot of labor and they're not going to be cutting grass after the storm. So if you need debris cleanup, those are conversations to have with landscaping companies because they have that extra labor. All right, we're coming up to the end. I get asked a lot on why is the premium so high? Don't kill your insurance agent. I mean, you may want to if they're a bad one, but don't kill them. All the agents are in the same boat. And so there's a term that says the global cost of reinsurance. So let's look at, and this should be 2017 to 2022, that's a typo. But between 2017 and 2022, there have been 104 weather and climate disasters. And each year it exceeded $1 billion in damages. 843 billion dollars, and that comes from the NOAA. This is what they're saying, and this affects insurance premiums hike. Every weather event. This is what it's affecting our premiums. So this is 2022 alone. These are the 18 weather events in 2022 that's affecting the rate increase continuously. And of course, we've already had a couple here in 2023 that you're going to see. And all these claims are being paid out this year. it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. No one has a crystal ball. No one knows what the insurance companies are going to do, but these are all the weather. So you have to look at not just hurricanes, hailstorms, floodings, droughts, tornadoes, wildfires. These all affect our insurance payment. The hurricanes that impact, you have three impacts, and people forget that Puerto Rico, they get hit hurricane, it's just as bad as getting hit in the US because they're US property. So that affects our premium increases, the global cost of reinsurance. A lot of companies are leaving Florida because, they're realizing, oh, Florida gets hit by hurricanes a lot. I'm like, where you been? Again, I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what's causing these increases. Your insurance agents, most of them, the good ones out there, are working diligently and trying to provide the best possible solutions for you on your renewals. If you have QBE, you're probably going to stay with QBE. Citizens are writing more and more policies, but they don't want to write policies. Citizen does not want you as a client, but you may not have a choice. It's a bad time in the insurance market right now. It's very challenging. Let me I think some more questions. Where did I leave off? To confirm, we have electric cars in the garage and the electrical is to capacity. Should I get documented approval from the fire department? Yeah, why not? It doesn't matter. It doesn't help. I'm sorry, it does help. Not just the fire department, but get a certified electrician in there. The use of electric vehicles is increasing year over year. I mean, my kids play a game called Tesla and pointing out Teslas. And it was used to be like here and there. Now it's like every other car. And now you have more, like the Hyundai's have electric vehicles, Volkswagens have electric vehicles, Chevy's got electric vehicles now. So it's just going to increase more and more. You may want to look at considering, like, maybe put a reserve item for electrical improvements to have more capacity. But again, talk to your association attorney on how you roll out those policies. Does Florida require us to have an insurance broker, or can we solicit cost information from several companies on our own? Now, you have to use a broker. Insurance companies don't deal with policyholders. They deal with brokers, and the brokers deal with the agents. So there's a middleman. There's a broker. There's an agent that you deal with, who's your contact person, that brings the client to the broker. The broker is the one that actually models out the different types and contacts and say, okay, well, I'll contact them, this and that, and see what best. Most properties are switching to what's called a layered option on your property, where you have multiple carriers. Lloyd's of London will collect the first 10 million, and then other companies will collect the next 10 million or 20 million, that type of thing. But you do need a broker to do that for you. Are there any manual checklists that will provide information as to what each type of policy covers? In general, since I understand that each policy coverage could vary based on what is purchased by the insured. Your agent should provide you exactly what each policy covers. There's a statement of values in your property policy that shows everything it covers. But again, you're not an insurance expert. This is what we do at Altieri. We do our Altieri pre-loss program, and we'll summarize what you have and what you don't have and what you should have, in talking points that you should have with your agent at renewal. So please reach out to me. We can send that out. To pay out a lot, agreed. They pay out a lot, agreed. How does that compare with what they take in as revenue from the insurance? Heather, the business model of insurance companies is collect premium and deny claims. They will try to pay as little as possible. But again, if you have professional representation, a public adjuster, you will get your suitable amount. A lot of water damage was caused at first floor apartment due to negligence from tenant and second floor, no agreement with insurance. Can owner and tenant be sued for negligence? That's up to the association. Anybody can be sued for anything. If the owner wants to sue the tenant, they can sue the tenant. If the association had damage in the common areas, it's probably not worth suing it. I mean, depending on the amount of damage there is. Again, these are the decisions to be made, the business decisions on what the value is. But you have to look at all the variables, in fact, and what the cost is. You don't want to spend money on small claims court. What is currently being done legislatively to regulate insurance companies in the state of Florida? Nothing. The insurance companies are powerful. They have powerful lobbyists. We fight them every year. They trying to change these law changes they just passed in July, while some of them are not beneficial. it could have been much worse. And we won a lot of battles to not be as bad as they originally wanted to. But it's just an ongoing battle, and they have support from some politicians, and insurance companies are big. They're if not big, they're bigger than the bank lobbyists. I'm sorry, but I think he said he would discuss, compensated. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're compensated by a percentage of what we recover. So whatever we recover, it's on average 10% of whatever we recover. In most cases, our compensation is enough. What we recover is enough to cover our compensation and your repairs. But that's on average, it's 10%. Again, as an Altieri Advantage client, depending on the size of the loss, there's little wiggle room there. I think I addressed all of the questions. My email, I'll show that to you in a second. Damages to first floor apartment are excess of $25,000. So is the first floor unit owner trying to sue the tenant for that damage? Then that's up to them. But if they have an HO6 policy, that's what it's for. Let them get the repairs done, and then they can go after that for the tenant. This is just another summary of the weather events in the last 5 years. Obviously, in 2017, we had over $306 billion in damages. That's because of Hurricane Irma. Hurricane Irma right now is the most costly hurricane to ever hit the state of Florida in terms of dollars. Hurricane Ian payouts are still going on, so that number is just going up. Obviously, here's the 18 events in 2022. It was 165. But this is what we do as public adjusters. So here's an example of Hurricane Michael, 18-story high-rise. The first offer of the insurance company was $3.8 million for their damages. We got a total settlement of $16 million. Having the proper representation is so beneficial. 420% increase from that first offer. 19-story high-rise on a condo claim from Hurricane Irma. Insurance company first offer was $0. They claimed you were under the high deductible. We didn't see enough damages there. Once we got in there with our construction team, provided a detailed report, sent everything, cross T's and dot I's, we're able to get them $15 million. We proved that the windows were structurally compromised and that they needed to be replaced. Structural issues, there were a whole variable list, and we got them $15 million. That percentage is well, hey, $15 million percent increase from $0. Hurricane Zeta, Biloxi, Mississippi. Initial offer was $50,000. We got them just over $4 million. 8,291% increase. The numbers are astronomical. This gives you an idea of what insurance companies are trying to do. There's my contact information, my email information. Call me anytime. My cell phone number's there. Email me anytime. I hope everybody enjoyed this, as it's 12:54 and I'm actually finished on time. So I'm very excited about that. How would I rate this course? Wow, I think I'd rate this course excellent. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks for watching. For more great educational content, click the subscribe button now.